This is a Flying Cow production.
Well, hello and welcome to the FCL Flashback, new show that we are doing here on the Flying Cow, where we are talking to people that were involved in the FCL, getting their take on what was, what could have been, and what is now. I, of course, am your host, the Flying Cow himself, Clay Johnson. And here with me today, my guest, Kat the Mad. Kat, how are you?
I am great. I am tired from not having slept for more than 6 months.
Oh,
but
geez. Yeah,
otherwise than that, I am great.
absolutely. Yeah, I was when I had conceived of this show, obviously I was like, well, I definitely want to get on the people that I had matches with. That would definitely be a great angle in. Obviously I'm going to go for others as well, but I was like, that would be a good place to start. And I remember that when we had our match, you'd only had one match. I'd only had one match. So didn't really know a whole lot about each other, but I do remember specifically that you reached out to me to, just to kind of say hello and, ask about what was good for the promo and things like that. And I just remember thinking like, oh, that's really cool. Kat's awesome. So I was really excited when you said yes to this opportunity, because we haven't really talked. I think the only other time that we spoke in between, the FCL's last match, we didn't know it at the time, but the last FCL airing and now was we actually met at Spectacular.
Yeah, we did.
The last live, Spectacular that they opened up to fans. But yeah, I just remember because I saw you and Sonny across the room, and my first thought was, my Kat is, I think the word I used was statuesque. Because you're just a very striking person. I mean, you're taller, but you're not that tall. You're what, like 5'10", 5'11", something like that?
5'10",
Yeah. But just like the way that you hold yourself, you're just a very striking looking person. So I was just like, wow, look at Kat. Kat looks great. But yeah, we didn't get a whole lot of time to talk there. So it's great to get the opportunity to catch up with you here now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like I said, we want to talk, about, your experience in the FCL, first and foremost, because that is where, we met. It's where a lot of people will know both of us from, at least. So, like, you in total had, was it 3 matches?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, because I knew you had the one before me. You had our match, and then I think your last match was with Wingblade, right? Yeah. So you had that match with Wingblade, and I believe that was the undercard to the last FCL like airing that we had before their big, I can't even remember what it was called. It was FCL. Keep wanting to call it Fallout, but that's a movie battles thing. I can't even remember what it was called.
Something bombastic and,
I just remember thinking, when David and I did our match, I was like, this should be part of this big event. Because the way that it was built up, I was like, this is the culmination of a storyline. I feel like this should be part of this. And yeah, obviously we weren't, but I'm just like, oh, whatever. But yeah, I'm, I don't know if there's anybody watching along or anything like that can let us know. But because I don't know if anybody's watching at all. Every time I bring up YouTube for this, it starts to play the video and then there's weird feedback. So I'm like, we'll figure out if somebody's here later. I'm sure some people are going to watch on the replay anyway. But yeah, so, you had those 3 matches kind of, I'm sure you did this on some of the after shows and stuff before, but give us kind of like a background of how you got into the FCL and that kind of thing.
Sure. Sonny is my partner, for those who don't know. He's a major, huge fan of the Schmodown.
Right.
And he was at the first live event back in March 18, I think.
Oh, okay.
Way back, like the first Schmodown live event they had.
Okay. Oh, yeah. In LA. Wow.
Yeah. He was he happened to be nearby.
Okay.
So he just went and and then it was just, I guess, just a long time of being a fan of the show. And then I think it was specifically after the Mandalorian, the finale of the second season.
Sure.
With the whole scene.
Yeah, the Skywalker scene. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And then I think a lot of people saw our reaction to it. And then I think Christian might have seen it as well. And then I suddenly had him in my mentions or in my GMs on Twitter, like, are you interested in being in the MTS, like in the draft? And
right, that's right, because I remember you guys were announced for being in the draft.
Yeah, but there was some confusion.
Okay.
Because because apparently there's. Sorry.
You're fine. You go ahead.
Because there was some confusion about, because we were international players. I think there were like 4 of us or something.
Sure.
And I think Christian may have said something along the lines of that we were not eligible to take any belts. And that's why a lot of the managers would not consider us, because we were not eligible to get the
have
belts.
Titles. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a bit sad because I think the Barbarian or Craig actually wanted at least Sonny for his team, but then he was kind of taken aback by the whole thing with the belts, and then it turned out he might not have said it anyway, so we were actually eligible to. And we even said we would not mind to fly out for a match. We would pay out of our own pocket for that if that was the case.
Right.
But anyway, we didn't get drafted, unfortunately. So instead, we were told about this amazing opportunity with the first class league and everything, and we said, yeah, sure. It's at least just for the fun of it, right?
Yeah. Just to give it a shot, to try it out. And so, did you know immediately that, if you were going to compete in this thing at all, you were going to do Inner Geekdom, or did you just kind of get there eventually?
No, I was sure, because I suck at normal movies.
Sure.
There's
just so many. It's like how. I mean, I'm pretty good at trivia, but half the movies they would bring up, I'm like, I've never even heard of. That's a movie?
Exactly. And it was then there was all these different categories, like directors. I suck at directors. Then it would be like westerns. I suck at westerns.
Sure.
1970s. I suck at 1970s. And it was just another, so many categories. And I was like, well, I actually have a somewhat solid base in a geekdom.
Right.
At least for the movies that I've seen, because a lot of the movies I found out were not available in Denmark.
Right, which is something that I think you mentioned at the end of our match, and I was just like, that's insane. I was like, how are you competing and not able to what? I mean, are you at least able to like pull up trailers like on YouTube or something like that? Because honestly, that's how I did a lot of my studying for our
No, I made it like purely based on like IMDb and
Sure.
whatever I could get out of it, and I was really good at because well I've studied at the university, so I'm pretty good at pulling out like information I think is relevant for whatever test or whatever comes up.
Right.
That's also what happened with the second category, like with the second round, where I was very fortunate to get TMNT because I just sat with it and read through all the TMNTs and all the.
So you didn't watch those movies; you just read about them.
Exactly.
Wow. Because honestly, I rewatch. I was able to get a copy of our match. I sent it to you as well. I was able to rewatch the match, and I remember even on the day I was impressed with your knowledge, because especially how quickly you busted out the answer to the last question about the Japanese scepter, because I was like, well, they call it an egg timer, and I was like in my head like trying to figure out the best way to like say, and you just an ancient Japanese scepter, and I'm just like, jeez.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I only read through the plot on Wikipedia, I think, and then I was pulling out details, and I happened to do that like in just hours before the match. I was able to pull out those little things.
Oh, I mean, honestly, sometimes that was the best studying is the stuff that you do like right before the match, or just the day before or something like that. Like I said, honestly, in our round one, I ended up with a little bit of a lead. I had 7 points, but I realized a lot of that was because I looked at the list and realized I haven't seen a lot of these. So also I had noticed that there was kind of a bit of a pattern with the IG matches. Like if they didn't ask about a specific category in one match, they definitely would in the next. So I kind of was like, oh, okay, they didn't ask about it in the last IG match, but I think it was like comic book movies, and they were all movies I hadn't seen. And I was like, because the ones I had seen were in their own categories, like Marvel, Batman, things like that. So all of the like outside ones, I was like, okay, I haven't seen a lot of these, so I just watched a bunch of trailers. That's where I got the Paul Bettany question on Priest, because I was like, well, I watched this trailer, I know that answer.
Yeah, and I was still so mad because I knew exactly that it was him. I just couldn't pull the name. And I don't know if you have the same thing or it's just me, but I have a tendency to mix up actors and actresses.
Sure.
And solely based on either if the names sound somewhat familiar, or if they look kind of similar in a way, or they have the same kind of roles. And like, for example, old they're old now, but like old white guys that has like a specific like very like they look funny, or like they have very specific face structure and stuff like that. I have a tendency to mix up those people.
I mean, I will say I don't necessarily mix up people, but I have like a catch in my brain. Like the moment you ask the question, the person's face will pop in my head. But I then have sometimes, especially with specific people, I will have a hard time like pulling the name, and I'm just like, I can see them in, and I can tell you what movies they're in, but I'm like having a hard time pulling it. Sometimes I can get there in the allotted times, but sometimes I cannot. And I also, and I actually practiced this because I have a little bit of, a disconnect with my brain with writing. My mother said it might be some form of like a form of dyslexia. Like you know what it is, but somehow it doesn't connect to your hand. And so sometimes if I'm in a hurry, like I will, without really even thinking about it, it will just become scribble. and I will have to actively make myself write each letter so that it's legible. And so I had to practice, because I was like, if I don't come up with the answer in the first 5 seconds, I won't have time. I'm just not a fast writer. So I was terrified. I mean, thankfully, most of the stuff, especially in the FCL, they asked us. So a lot of times was surface, which honestly was one of the main reasons that I was like, yeah, I can do the inner geekdom. Because, the first couple of seasons that they did inner geekdom, I was watching and I'm like, yeah, I could play inner geekdom. And then around the time we started playing the Schmodown inner geekdom, I was like, yeah, no, they're way out of my league. And so I was like, I'm not even going to try for that. But when I started seeing the FCL inner geekdom matches, I was like, okay, this is back on my level. Let me just, it might just be a fun little whim. I might just lose all of them, but let me give it a shot, and thankfully we, you and I got to play, which, win or lose, I enjoyed playing with you.
Same. Absolutely.
Yeah. I will say, I do want to talk about the match, and we'll continue to do so, but I also want to talk about, because in my opinion, one of the best parts about this match, and honestly, it's amongst my favorite, are our promos. I love, and honestly, it's still one of my favorite promos that we did in the FCL. And I know I was kind of infamous for my promos, but just the way that you worked off of my gimmick was so much fun. Because you half took it seriously and half were like, what's going on? Like, what is this? And I think I've told you before, the joke still gets me. I love it.
But it was a part of like I knew I probably wouldn't win a lot, or at least win belts or whatever, but I was like, okay, this is going to be fun. I want people to remember me. So I was really like, I almost focused borderline too much on the intro and just making that as funny and as I possibly could. So there's exactly.
Yeah,
so it's
I was like, if I don't know how good I'm going to be at this, so if I'm going to stand out, my character has to be in your face and insane. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
and also
that's the flying cow.
Yeah, and I was trying to play off the mat. I think it was a bit hard, but at least I tried. and for this, I feel like it was just a great match there in energy and just the humor of it.
Yeah,
just both taking it a bit serious, but also just go with the randomness.
Yeah, some silliness. Now, I do want to ask you, because they would always ask for a minute and a half, minute 30. I'm pretty sure if you look, because I have all of my old, my half of the promos that I would send in, and I'm pretty sure all 4 of them all ended up a minute and 45. I would always end up 15 seconds too long. And I'm just like, he's going to cut anyway. I'm like, this way, I mean, hats off to Adam Witt. He always, created some great promos, some great stuff. And so I was like, he'll find what's good. He'll trim what doesn't work or what's bad or this, that, and the other. But like, were there any things in particular that you had in your promo that you're like, oh, that wasn't in there or anything like that?
I think it was the last one. I think he cut that. There was a lot that was cut, and I felt like some of the like I had maybe one joke that was great, and I was like, oh, okay. And then cut.
Oh, did he cut the one joke? Oh no.
I think there was something like that, but at least I also had so much other stuff going on and other jokes and everything. So even I think it was it Amber or it was at least someone was watching it and was writing in the chat like, they noticed in the background I had something how to clone a unicorn or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Or genetically constructed unicorn or something like that. And they saw that, and I was just like, okay, my work here is done. Like,
It's done. Yeah.
it's appreciated. It's seen. It's like, yeah. And I was just
Yeah.
like, yeah.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I mean, I will say there was, there were often little bits that they, because I intentionally made my promos segments. So, because I was like, I know that they're going to need to cut. So I basically had like 3 to 4 segments that I knew he could play with. Sometimes they would cut little bits out of each segment or something like that just to kind of make it fit. But there was always at least one full segment that got cut. And for this one, and I don't know, like, what we have that you have over there or whatever, but I made a Cat in the Hat joke. So,
Okay.
are you familiar with the Cat in the Hat?
No, I'm not.
It's okay. It's Dr. Seuss children's book. And basically it's a 6-foot cat that wears a giant red and white hat and comes and entertains some children when they don't know what to do on a rainy day, is basically the idea of the story. Well, back in like, I can't remember if it's the 60s or 70s, they actually did a cartoon short based on the book. And of course they went, pretty crazy with it, expanded the story a little bit. Cause it's a tiny book, even for a 25-minute short, they needed to put more in it. But they did a bit on there where at a certain point he started singing this song where he basically just sang the phrase Cat in the Hat in a bunch of different languages. And so I did a play off of that, and it went like in English, cat, hat, in French, chapeau, in Spanish, el gato en a sombrero. So I did kind of a play off of that, and I was like, in English, cat, hat, in French, chapeau, in cow, moo. And honestly, when he cut that, I was like, I get it, because I don't know how many people are going to get that reference. But at the same time, I was like, it's the cat, and doing a cat. Okay, all right,
okay, yeah. Yeah, and there were also things with like some of the jokes where it was not made by people who were watching. There were some jokes that apparently were super offending or something, and it was just like, okay, I'm sorry, I don't know what, like, I'm sorry.
From your promos?
Yeah.
Wow. Like, do you remember any of the things that people complained about? Like, was it people watching, or was it like the people from the FCL saying, "Oh, we can't have this"?
No, it was some people watching. It was some person who got offended by the be careful not to get mad cow disease.
Did they have mad cow disease?
No, it's just like, why make fun of a disease that kills thousands of people each year or something, where it's like,
You're Cat the Mad, I'm the flying cow. That joke had to be made.
I was so like, I didn't mean for it, and I was just like, wow. Oh, I didn't know this was offending. I was just, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to. Yeah. I just sat there like, oh, I'm sorry, but I honestly, I don't want to offend anyone, and apparently I did, even by like some stupid joke. And so you can't really always cover your bases, even though you're trying. And I was really trying, and that's also why I tried to. I reached out to all my opponents and said, "Is there anything that's like off the chart, like that I can't do and can't joke about?" Because I didn't want to offend anyone, and I didn't want to, if there's something, I don't know, if someone was insecure about their hair, or if they were their weight or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And, honestly, I like I said, I really appreciated that you did that. Now, I grew up watching wrestling and always, wanted to do those types of promos. So, and plus I was like, nobody here really knows me, so nobody would know anything that was personal enough that would actually offend me. But just the fact that you had that thought, I was like, that's really, and plus we actually opened up a pretty fun dialogue before our match. And so I was like, now I feel like I'm going into this match not playing someone that I've never met before. I mean, we still hadn't ever met, but I feel like I'm kind of playing a friend, and that made it that much more fun.
Exactly. And I also think that's why a lot of the promos, at least that we did, was kind of working, because if you go into a match or going to make an intro like that, then you can't really fail.
Yeah, you definitely have to. There's no redo, there's no retry. It's just like, well, this is it. You know, I don't think I never sent in something and they were like, try again. I mean, honestly, I don't know how I would have reacted to that. It probably would have crushed me a little bit. But yeah, it really, I mean, especially, you know, the stuff that we did live on the match. You know, it's like, well, I hope this works because, you know, because I think this was the match that I started calling Bradward.
Oh God, I saw it and I just laughed and
Yes.
laughed, because I was like, why?
I really wanted, I was just like, I know that the more that I pick at the people, the more that I make this a thing, the more that I make my character interesting, even if I lose all of my matches, they're going to want to have, I mean, you know, there's a reason that I never can remember how to pronounce her name for sure, but Alana Jordan, there's a reason they kept bringing her back. I mean, part of it was because she was available, but part of it was because she was just such a fun person to work with. Yeah. I mean, who didn't? I mean, we'll talk about, you know, what we wanted for the future in just a little bit, but I can tell you she was definitely on my list of people that I wanted to play.
Same. I also met her at the Spectacular and the day after.
Yeah.
And she was just like the most, like the kindest person I've ever met, I think. And she was just like, I don't care if I'm gonna lose this match, but I want to play a match with you. I was like,
yeah. Honestly, I had in my head, I was like, honestly, what I would love, I was, because she had kind of made a kind of a joking jab at me in one of her last matches. And I was like, oh, is she setting something up? Does she want us to play? Because that would be fun. And I was like, I was going to go on and be like, I will play you in any division. In fact, let's play Star Wars because the cow needs to have a win in every single division. You know, I was like, that would have been so much fun. You know, just, yeah, I would have loved to do that. So yeah, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do fun, silly stuff. And I knew, I was like, if I start like even like a small little rivalry or something, like just kind of poking Brad, I was like, that's going to, you know, stir up some interest. So yeah. But yeah, I will say, you know, getting into the match itself a little bit more, you know, like we already mentioned, you crushed Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And, you know, I went before and I got Spinner's Choice. And I knew the moment I got Spinner's Choice is exactly what I was going to pick, because there pretty much is no better slice for me on that wheel. I mean, there were definitely some others that I could have done, but I knew, you know, I was going to choose Star Trek because it's just, it's the easiest. And here's what's really funny. Rewatching this match, just about every question that I had missed and I haven't watched this match since, I think I might have rewatched it once when it first aired, but I haven't seen it again since then. I remembered the answer to every single question, even the ones we missed, with the exception, because I actually remembered, oh yeah, Newt's real name is Rebecca. The one first round question that I missed. But I still didn't remember the answer to the one Star Trek question that I missed. The 12. How long was George Kirk captain? And what was funny is at the time, because I knew that if they asked me any original series film questions, I could get it no problem. If they asked me the next gen questions, not as strong, but still pretty confident. But I knew my weakness was going to be the Abrams movies, because I just haven't seen them as many times. You know, I grew up with the others like as part of my DNA, but I just haven't seen the Abrams movies as many times. And what was funny is I had, and I couldn't tell you now, but I had the other number, because that quote is, your dad was captain for 12 minutes and saved like 1,800 people or something like that. I could have told you the number of people, but I could not remember the number of minutes. And I was like, oh, you're kidding me. You are kidding me. And like I said, when I rewatched them, I still couldn't remember that answer.
Yeah, it's I know the feeling in the first round.
Yeah.
It's like the Bernard Hill.
Yeah.
Question. I was like, I just completely forgot his name again.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I think I got most of the questions right.
Sure.
But well, we've been through it before, so
yeah.
But yeah, this yeah, and for some reason, 12 minutes that was just stuck with me. Since I think the first time I watched the Star Trek J.J. Abrams, the first one.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a no-brainer, and I even I accidentally revealed my answer.
Yeah,
before
yeah.
Because I knew this, and in the back of my mind, like it was just there.
Yeah.
Well, some of the other questions were a little bit more because again, a lot of the Star Trek movies were not available in Denmark.
Sure.
The older ones.
Yeah.
So I couldn't really. Again, I had to pull stuff from Wikipedia and stuff.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. I mean, I could quote you parts of the original series movies. For most patients your age, I'd recommend Retinox 5. I'm allergic to Retinox. Hence happy birthday. It's like, yeah, I know these things. And of course, you know, rewatching it, I was like, man, I feel like the easier questions I got were all from the movies that I knew the best. And the hardest question was from the movies. And I'm like, you guys did it backwards. You did it backwards for me. But yeah, and then of course you stole that one. You ended up at the in the lead at the end of round number 2. But what was funny, you mentioned that just stuck with you. I would have guessed the exact same wrong answer now that I did then. I was like, is it 17 minutes? No, it's 12. It's 12. Yeah. But you know, and then we get into the third round, and we're both hitting, you know, the 2, the 3, and then it gets to the 5s. And I don't know about you. Did my 5 seem? I'm assuming you knew my 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cat, Jonesy, and I remember number 1 being afraid that they were going to be like, well, which is it, Jones or Jonesy? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure they say both in the movie. So, because I answered Jones or Jonesy, and you know, PLD ecstatically was like, that's correct. And I'm just like, oh, good, because you know, I was like, I'm pretty sure, you know, I think through most of the movie they call him Jonesy, but I was like, I don't know if they're looking for the technical name or the nickname. So I was like, I'll give them both and we'll see what happens. But yeah, I just remember thinking, I honestly feel like the previous alien question, the Newt question probably should have been my 5. Because, I mean, now that means I would have lost the match. So, you know, I'm kind of glad that it wasn't. Sure. But, you know, at the same time, I'm like, that, you know, seemed harder to me when, you know, I was shocked when I got that one, and I was just like, yeah, it probably should have been the other way around. But yeah. And then you get that mask question, which I didn't know at the time either. I know, a lot of people my age and younger grew up worshiping Jim Carrey. I've always been one of those guys that prefers his more dramatic roles. Never really gotten to the silly Jim Carrey. I've seen the movie The Mask maybe once, and I think it was on at a hotel, and I wasn't completely paying attention. I will say though, when they re-asked the question this time, I was in the back of my head, is it Ben Stein? Am I remembering that? Is it Ben? And I was right. Okay. So I did retain it. But yeah. So like when they said The Mask, were you just like, oh, it's over?
Yeah, I was just like, yeah. And I don't know about you, but I think comic book movies was my absolute least favorite of all the. Yeah, that was horrible.
It was easily the one of the categories I had seen the fewest movies in. Because it was all things that I was like, oh, that was a comic book? Or, oh, that's a movie? So,
yeah, and for me it was also, again, there was a lot of older movies and more I would say B-list movies. Like they weren't as
not the strongest films.
No, exactly. And not a lot of like famous people in it and stuff like that. And so for me, not being able to watch the movies, I didn't really have much to go off on. So it was it. And I knew as soon as they said comic book movies, I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm over. It's like I think you can even see it in my eyes, like how I'm just defeated at that moment. I was just like, yeah. And then sorry.
No, I just remember thinking, man, I'm glad I won, but I was almost like, I almost feel like Kat deserved to win this. Because, obviously I had a better round one, but you had some of the deeper knowledge. And I was just like, I don't know, maybe, the mix of my broader, base knowledge and your, maybe we were kind of evenly matched, but I was just like, man, hats off to that deep knowledge that you were expressing. Because I was just like, I feel like had you gotten, a 5 you had known, or, if those questions had been flopped, I easily would have lost that match.
Yeah, and I was a little bit disappointed as well, because I also felt like you with that the aliens questions should have been swapped.
Yeah.
But also I think it was the next IG or something. I think Shimo was playing.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and he got a 5-point question in Middle Earth.
It was the Brago question.
Yeah, and I thought it was so easy, and I was just like, I should have had that.
Yeah. You know what's really funny? I was, we were part of a faction at that time, and I had helped him study. And we had gone over the day before, we had gone over the Lord of the Rings, and we specifically talked about Phaedron. But we didn't talk about his horse. And I was like, oh, I felt bad in that moment, because I was like, if I had mentioned, and his horse's name was Brago, it's the same one that Aragorn rides through the rest of the film, because Viggo Mortensen, I believe, ended up buying that horse. Yeah. So I mean, how it didn't come up, I don't know. But I just remember thinking, oh, we were so close. We were so close to talking about that.
Yeah. And it's also, it also goes to, I was so mad at myself in my last match against Sean when we played. I think I had spinner's choice.
Okay.
Or opponent's choice. Yeah, opponent's choice.
Oh, okay.
So I got to choose his category, and I went with something that I thought he was not strong in, which was Transformers. Turned out that he was really good at it. And I should have gone with Middle Earth, because he also missed a Middle Earth question in the first round.
Sure.
So I might have been able to turn it around in the second round, because I'm actually really, really, really strong in Middle Earth, and I'm a little bit disappointed that they didn't reach out to me with any of the exhibition matches with Middle Earth, because I'm really good at that.
Yeah. I mean, that would have been cool. Yeah, I mean, the thing with Wingblade and Transform, number one, I think when he lost his first match, because I remember when Wingblade had that, and we've talked about it, when he had that first match, his next match was against Shimo, and I remember Shima and I both going, I think he's better than this, but I still think you can take him, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so he kind of lulled us all into a false sense of security. And, you know, then he just ended up running the table on everybody else. But I think part of it was that loss kind of lit a fire under him. And he just was determined that he would have no weaknesses, because honestly, I think a lot of other people in that situation also would have chosen Transformers, because nobody really wanted Transformers to be part of Inner Geekdom, and nobody was really looking forward. So I think we all kind of had the same, like, nobody likes this, right? Yeah, nobody likes this. So nobody really knows this. And Sean was like, yeah, I'm not part of that agreement.
Yeah, exactly. And I also think perhaps his kids, perhaps, I think there was maybe something like that where they were into Transformers or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he does have kids, and yeah, sometimes, yeah. Of course, you know, he probably, you know, also has like a deep understanding of Bluey that none of the rest of us will ever have either. So, but yeah, so I mean, we had that match. You had your matches. You were also, though, part of a faction. You were part of, it was the European invasion, right? Is that what it was called? Okay.
Yeah.
I wrote that down on some of my social media posts, and I'm like, I'm really hoping I'm not messing this up. Because I think I had thought, yeah, that's right. I think at first I was like, was it the European Union? Was that what it was? And then I thankfully came up with invasion. I'm like, okay, yeah, that was it. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so did you guys have any sort of like idea as to where that was supposed to be going? Like, did you guys have any like places that you wanted it to go? Like talk to me about the European invasion and what you wanted that to be.
We really wanted Sonny to win Star Wars.
Sure.
And then David to win singles, and then me to win IG.
Yeah,
I know it was like that was a bit ambitious.
Yeah, well, I mean, we had the same thing in the Sinister Syndicate. You know, we were, once we added Maxwell, we were like, oh, he's going to get the singles title. When they bring in teams, he and I are going to win the team's title. Shimo's not going to be far from Star Wars or IG. I was like, and you know, there were a couple of names being floated around as to additional people who might have joined the syndicate. I'm not going to throw them out because I'm going to be talking to them at some point. But yeah, there were a lot of people that were interested in joining us. And I was like, it'd be cool for them to be, you know, be a fourth member, you know, things like that. So, yeah, I mean, there were all those. I mean, like I said, we all had those ambitions of we're going to win all the titles. We're going to be the group with all the titles. I will say, though, we ended up playing you guys a lot.
Yeah.
Because I think I played, I mean, there were only 3 of you, but I played both you and Dave. The only one in the European invasion that I didn't play was Sonny.
And Nosset, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot that you guys added Nosset later on. But yeah, no, I never got the chance. But I was like, I was going to be like in my promo, I'm taking down the entire European Union single-handedly. Give me Nosset. Yeah. You know, I had all of these ambitions for because I wanted us to kind of be rivals, and we kind of mentioned it, but we didn't get to fully play that out.
No. And yeah, the whole thing would be like if we were the only Europeans there, and we were 4 people. So we really wanted to basically take over the whole competition, and that was the whole invasion thing. And then we wanted to go into the MTS, and then it would be something like World War or something, you know, because then it was suddenly the Europeans versus the Americans, and But yeah, we didn't get that far.
No. I mean, you know, I really, you know, I believe the introduction of the European invasion was on the same FCL thing as our match, wasn't it?
I really don't remember.
And we only got the one match. I didn't see the whole card, so I didn't get to see all the cutscenes and everything that we did. But I do think so, because Brad does kind of mention the formation of the European invasion in your intro with him. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that was. And I will say, I always loved you in those promos, because you always came off like you had much more like devious, underhanded like plans in place, and they would always like be reining you back. And I was just like, I love that note that Kat has played. It's adding so much to this. So like, did you have plans to, you know, eventually, you know, betray them or anything like that? Like, what was did you have any sort of game plan with that?
No, not at all.
No.
I think if anyone was supposed to defect or deflect, English.
Defect, yeah.
It would have been me.
Sure.
But it was more like, for me, I was the mad scientist kind of person, and I had like these like actual plans to destroy. Where the others were just where David was just like he would talk smack, and Sonny would be the like it's like I was kind of the odd one out in regards to like I would just be blurring the lines between reality and competition,
right?
Like my character would.
Yeah.
And then we had Sonny that was completely oblivious to all this. Like, he didn't understand what's with all this meanness, or why are we so mean? Why can't we just all be friends? And
Sonny just overwhelmingly positive. Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Is that how he is in real life? Is he just a huge optimist? Yeah.
Yeah, he's I'm not sure he could ever hurt anyone. He is like the gentlest soul ever, and he is that kind of person that everybody just clicks with, because he's such a wonderful, and he's so great with all the social stuff. I'm a bit more. I had to learn a lot of like social rules in my life, where it just comes naturally.
Yeah,
and like there are certain things that you shouldn't talk to him about, because he will just talk for hours on end.
Yeah.
So it's just like there's a few things where it's like, okay, I have to like physically pull him away from the conversation, because I'm afraid that the other people would be overwhelmed with all this knowledge.
Sonny, they have lives. They have other things they have to get to.
And it's like, oh, I can hear he's starting on Game of Thrones, or he's starting on Star Wars or something, and I'm like, oh man, okay, we have to.
Gotcha. So I'm writing down for our eventual talk. Don't talk about Game of Thrones. Don't talk about Star Wars. I mean, the problem is he was in the Star Wars division, so I would have to. Yeah. Yeah. Little dangerous there.
I'm not. He is fully capable of ending, and like he's also good at listening to other people in that regard. Sure. Like giving him space to and time to talk back.
Yeah, to respond.
Yeah. Respond.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
English.
I get it. I mean, you know, it's the only language I speak, and I still have a hard time with it half the time. So yeah, totally get it. But yeah, so I mean, you know, we talked a little bit about storylines, and we both kind of mentioned that one of the people we would have loved to play would have been Alana Jordan, the Punisher. Were there any other people that you were like, on your list? Oh, I'd really like to play this person. Oh, I hope this happens. Oh, I'd love to do a storyline with them or something like that.
I would love to take on Sean again.
Okay.
Yeah, as a revenge kind of deal.
Yeah.
But I think that was just for the fun of it, if that was, because
Sure.
I think he was a bit out of my league, and me having to study so hard just to lose a match, that was yeah. Because that's the thing with these competitions. Like there's so much knowledge that you have to cram into very little time, and like
Right.
that's also. I remember we spoke with Thomas Harper. I think he might be one of the absolute greatest competitors in the MTS. He is like so knowledgeable, but he said like he spent 100 hours per match studying, and he has like tiny like toddlers, like small kids.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, how in the hell do you have time? Sorry for my language, but
No.
How do you have time for this?
Yeah.
And I think that's also kind of what would bit Sonny in the ass in the end, because he was like, I'm not sure I can put in this much time and energy with this. Because like especially Star Wars Division, that was just it got to a point where it's like
I mean the FCL was definitely a step lower, but still there, occasionally there would be those Schmodown level questions. And I was just like, I was quizzing Shimo, and I was digging deep because I was like, we never know when they're going to bring up something like this. So yeah, honestly, when Harper stepped down, my first thought was, I'm surprised more people haven't. Because, just where we were, FCL level, I was having to spend, I had other things going on too. And I was just like, I couldn't study more than I am right now. I don't know how people do this with full-time jobs and everything else. It was a lot.
Yeah, I had to take like half days off.
It all works.
Just to be ready for the match on the day.
Yeah.
But I also had that disadvantage that the matches were always super late for me.
Yeah, they were at like 1 a.m. or something for you.
Yeah, that would be the second match, and the first match would be around 12 or something. But it's still, if you go to bed around 9 p.m., it's still
right.
Your brain is going to be a little bit fried at that point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure a lot of it has to do with your change in circumstance with your kid and everything. But when you told me the latest that you wanted to meet was 6 o'clock your time, I was like, oh wow, those matches must have been rough.
Yeah. And that's also why I ask for the time to be this kind of early, because I go to bed around 8 with my kid, because he wakes up a lot of during the night, and it could be a struggle. That's also why I said I haven't slept for 6 months, because I basically haven't. He's not sleeping well, especially not in the moment. So so me having to like take off so much of the night and the evening just to get some sort of sleep, and it's just and it's hard for me already before I got a kid with sleeping, because I am so dependent on getting proper sleep to function. So for me, just to I also usually, if I remember correctly, I usually took the day off on the other like the day after the match.
Sure. Well, yeah, I mean, you'd be going to bed so late, and and I don't know about you, but I'm the type of person, when I do something that like I had like takes any sort of like mental I can't go to sleep immediately after. I have to take some time to wind down. I often I have, for my other job, I often have to drive like 12, 14 hours. And sometimes I'll get off of that, having just driven 12, 14 hours, and it's at like 5 a.m. and I'm like, okay, I need to put something on because I can't go to sleep immediately. My brain just needs time to shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, same, especially because it was for me. I was very nervous all the time, so my adrenaline was just crazy high. So for me to
Yeah.
just cool down again, that would, yeah,
Yeah.
it would get very late in during the night, and then yeah. So I think I took most days off. I think that after the
Gotcha.
first match, actually got a tattoo the next day. And
Yeah.
it kind of helped a little bit that I was so tired because I almost fell asleep getting it.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
so I tried to position the matches as well as I could and try
Right.
to work around, because I had a very flexible job in that regard, because
Yeah.
well, I worked with science and I worked with like experiments and stuff like that,
Sure.
so I could just put my workload
And
other.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's nice. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, did you ever have to turn down a match offer? Because I know there towards the end they were using a lot of the same people, and I know a lot of that was because we were the people who said yes.
Yeah, I don't think I turned down. No, I don't think. Maybe one because we were on holiday. I just said no, I can't do it, and
Yeah.
then they rescheduled it
Sure.
for another time, and
Okay.
then I was supposed to play Shimu at some point, but
Yeah. Okay.
then
Because
something happened.
yeah. Because here's the thing. I remember uh when they told me that I was playing, you know, they would always be like, don't tell anyone yet until this is, well, I was already working with Shimo at that point, and I was helping him study. And he told me, he was like, yeah, because I'm pretty sure my next match is going to be against Kat. And I already knew that my next match was against you, but I couldn't tell him yet.
No.
So I was just like, maybe, who knows? But he kept dropping hints. He was like, I'm sure. He was like, he would tell me in his promos, he was like, I'm going to drop hints because I know they're going to put me against Kat. And I don't think, you guys never played.
No, we didn't.
No. Yeah.
It would be fun though, also as a whole like story arc between our rival
with
factions
the Sinister Syndicate and the European invasion. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was certain that we were going to end up in some sort of, I mean, we kind of already loosely were, because like I said, I already played you and David, and I figured that you know, me beating David wouldn't have been the last of it. That you guys would have wanted revenge the next season or something like that. I was looking forward to all of that. I mean, honestly, I knew that probably at some point you would want a rematch against me, and I'm like, oh, good. Kat will probably win that one.
Yeah, but that was the whole thing, because before we knew that FCL and the MTS were not going on, we did have like certain plans for how we wanted, like we just wanted to keep going, but but then we also had, because at that point I knew I was pregnant.
Sure.
So I knew I had to take out like from, I think, June. I said I wouldn't be available from June. And then they kept saying, yeah, well, we are still working on the kinks and everything. We don't know anything yet, but we think we're going to start from April or something. And then I was like, yeah, but I have up until June, and then I have to like, because that would be so close to due date at this point that and then nothing happened, and
then nothing happened, and then more nothing happened.
And then I was like, yeah, okay, it's past June now. And then they said, well, it's not gonna happen. So at that point, it was just like,
because that's the thing, obviously the Schmodown got like this big commiseration, and they were like, unfortunately, the Schmodown is ending. FCL never got that. We never got, thank you to all of our fans and all, and I actually made a video, but to kind of talk about that particular thing. but I realized the timing for when I made it just didn't work out. And then I just never posted it. It's still sitting on my hard drive somewhere. But yeah, because I was like, it sucks that the FCL never really got anything else.
Yeah, I would have
After
thought.
Warfare, by the way, I finally looked up the name of their
Yes.
big spectacular-ish event was
Yeah.
Warfare. But yeah,
It would have been wonderful, and I was definitely planning on getting back from after I've given birth and everything.
yeah,
But I think also that, like, it's perhaps that would be blessing in disguise that it didn't continue, because it's been so hard with the kid that I wouldn't.
I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So perhaps it's if I have to look at the positive in it, then that's definitely it. But
Sure.
it was just, yeah, and I especially felt it when we went to the spectacular, that this, like, our league, it just, even though it wasn't as like high stakes or anything, I just felt like we had such a nice connection and, like, a small community together, and it was just.
It was fun, and the fans that watched really enjoyed it. I mean, you just had to look at the comments on the Twitch. They were into it. I mean, I don't know how many people there were on average, but you know, it's more than my trivia stuff Movie Battles has ever done, and I've done 2 full seasons. So you know, it just, yeah, it's unfortunate that, you know, it didn't continue in some way, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have any aspirations in getting into the team division? Because they announced the team division, and then that never happened, of course.
No, because that if
No.
teams were only movies. Like there was like there was like IG movie categories, but
Yeah,
it would still be all the other.
sure. Still
Yeah,
too
and-
broad for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
again, me and directors is just not it's not, I can't.
Honestly, and I can say this without fear because I'm not really competing anywhere. Directors, yeah, was always a weakness for me. I mean, there were a few here and there, but directors, it really wasn't until starting watching the Schmodown that directors were a thing I really paid attention to.
Exactly.
Outside of people like, you know, Spielberg and, you know, some of the bigger names. Otherwise, you know, I didn't care who directed, you know, the first Iron Man movie. It was all about Iron Man, you know. Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously that one's a little more obvious. That's Jon Favreau, but still, you know, it wasn't a thing I really thought about, you know. And I loved movies. I could tell you actors and things like that all day long, but that and you know, scores and soundtracks, those are just not things that are things I automatically pay attention to and notice. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way, but with directors, because scores and soundtracks is a bit more.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, I know people that, you know, feel the same way I do about directors, but love scores and soundtracks. And I'm like, great, awesome, good for you.
Yeah, it's the same. Like I'm a trained in, like, I have a music background.
Sure.
Not professionally, but just a big one.
Mhm.
So for me, scores and soundtracks, so that has been somewhat important to me. Not necessarily like I would be an expert in it, but
Sure.
it was, yeah. I knew the big ones. Definitely very different to directors, because I have it like I feel like in the exact same way as you. Like, why pay attention? Because I knew there was a director on
Right.
a
Sure.
movie, but I didn't really like. I was like, oh, they're directors. They have an actual saying and how the movie's turning out. You know?
Yeah, it's the things you know, you're still viewing it as a fan, not necessarily as, you know, a critic, somebody within the industry that pays that much attention to all of the nuts and bolts. Like I said, if I was, you know, I knew, I'm an actor, so I know about actors. I can tell you about them because I recognize the craft. But, you know, directing outside of, you know, a couple of you know, sketches here and there that I do, in theater with friends. That's my directing background. So, not really anything I thought about. I mean, like I said, now I'm a little bit more aware of it. Now I can see kind of the brushstrokes of a director. But yeah, before the Schmodown, just not something I paid as much attention to.
Mhm.
All right. So, I mean, we've kind of already talked about, your time in the FCL, what we wanted to have happen. Was there anything that we missed? Anybody that you're like, oh, I really wanted to play this person, or oh, I really wanted to talk about this?
No, I think
No?
we got around.
Kind of put our stamp on that. All right.
Yeah.
So, I do also want to talk a little bit. You've already kind of mentioned, the things that you're doing now. You have a child, so that's a lot of what you're doing right now.
That's all I'm doing.
Sure, yeah. But I mean, is there anything else that you want people to know about or anything like that?
Well, we're still trying to go strong with the channel, the YouTube channel,
Yeah.
Sonny and me. But otherwise than that, I'm just again like I don't think before I got this kid, I don't think I had an idea of just how much time and space and energy such a little one takes.
Yeah.
Like I just thought I had so many preconceived notions about how it would be to be on parental leave and everything, and then suddenly
and no matter how much you try not to, you always kind of do. You're always shattered by what it really is.
It's like it's just been much more overwhelming than I thought, and I haven't baked as many cakes and breads as I hoped for. I haven't done as much as I wished for, but it takes up so much time, and I did not expect. Like I knew it was gonna be hard and everything, but I didn't know it was gonna be this hard. And I think I don't know if you watched The Big Thing, or it's
been a while. I have in the past.
Yeah. Okay. Because they had an episode recently with Katie Sackhoff.
Oh,
and
okay.
she had a whole rant about her. She has a 1-year-old kid, I think.
Yeah.
And it was just like Sonny and me just like listening to it. It was like I can relate so hard with like being suicidal little maniacs, and when they find out that they can take off the diaper, then they're just like poopy diaper all over. So I definitely have my hands full with such a small size.
Yeah, I mean, obviously nowhere near as extreme, but I have a dog. I know, he's my child, but like I said, nowhere near the level of an actual human child. But when I first got him, I was shocked at how I was like, this is so time consuming. I do sometimes feel like when people say, oh, my dogs are my children, they mean that in several different ways. It's like not just I have the affection that I would have, but it's like I literally have to keep up after this little life form, and they're very demanding. They're very needy. I have to make sure they're taken care of. So
and sometimes it's carnage it's just just pure carnage, at least. It's chaos all over.
First year I had my dog, he ate a hole in one of my walls. Now, part of that was because there was water damage in the wall, but he also ripped up part of the carpet and ate out some of the padding. That was great.
Like I think with children, you have to stop them before they get so far.
Yeah.
But I definitely am.
Yeah. Oh no, I've often joked that having a dog is basically like having an eternal toddler, because they never get to the point where he's never going to get to the point where he can grow up and have a job, and he'll never leave me. you know, as long as he's living. But you know, he'll also always be in that place where, okay, I have to take you out to go to the bathroom. Okay, I have to give you your own. I have to give you your food. You can't just do it your own damn self. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like sometimes think that dogs and other pets, it's a bit like having a toddler, but like not necessarily they're not necessarily going to be sentient in the same way that
Right.
kids are.
Right.
So it's just good, as you say, an internal toddler. That's
Yeah.
I think that's pretty apt description.
Yep. I mean, you know, he is past his terrible twos. He's not ripping stuff up anymore. But yeah, I still, you know, occasionally I'm still like, why do you always turn over the trash can? There's never anything good in it. Just leave it alone. Yeah.
It's just a habit at this point.
Yeah. All right. Well, Kat, it has been great talking with you, kind of reminiscing about our time in the FCL, and you know what might have been. But you know, obviously, you have your things that you want to get back to. So, I mean, do you want to? I mean, are you guys putting out anything on the channel? Do you want to let anybody know about that, or?
Sure. We've do Mandalorian.
Okay.
Just finished with the Last of Us.
Okay.
And then Attack on Titan, there was a special recently, like one of the final season, final episodes. Like that season has just been going on forever. So we have a few things up on the channel that we're still working on.
And the channel is called, for anybody that's not familiar.
Oh yeah, sorry, it's just Cat and Sunny.
Cat and Sunny.
Yeah.
On YouTube.
On YouTube, yeah.
All right. Good stuff. Well, me, of course, you can always find me at the Flying Cow Pod on Twitter and Instagram. You can also email me at theflyingcowpod@gmail.com. Remember to check out all of the shows that we have on our podcast feed, available anywhere you find podcasts. We have a Disney show. We have a show about the Oscars. We've got lots of different nostalgic shows and things like that. So check all of that out. Also, don't forget to check out Movie Battles, our trivia show, which, I mean, there's 2 whole seasons there for you to check out. So check that stuff out. Some good stuff. But again, thank you so much, Kat. Oh, and don't forget to check out the Patreon. Patreon.com/theflyingcow. That's very important to plug. We have exclusive things over there. Including our Patreon exclusive podcast, Around the World, where we talk all things Ernest P. Worrell. So check that stuff out. But again, Kat, thank you so much for being here. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun. Yeah.
All right. Well, like I said, we are going to be doing these as often as I have weekends available and people are available to talk to me. So make sure to check out the next one. We will make sure to advertise the live stream, let you know when it's happening. But until then, moo.